Good evening and welcome to Midnight Movie Club and my review of #Alive. Just before we get into the review, I'd like to give myself a little shout out. I've created a second channel that is all about RPGs, which will include lore videos, guides and some gameplay in the future. The channel will focus on Cyberpunk 2077 for a while, as I'm insanely hyped about that game, and I will also be doing some content on Ghost Runner. I'm a huge fan of the Elder Scrolls, and when 6 rolls around, whenever it does, I will cover that too. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy and get a bit of different content from myself, then definitely check it out and subscribe. I'll leave a link down below. Right, now that's out of the way, let's get into the review. #Alive is a South Korean zombie film about a gamer who is home all alone in his apartment complex when a zombie outbreak begins to wreak havoc around him. He's barricaded in his apartment and isolated from the world outside. We follow him through the ups and downs of his isolation and the outbreak itself. He uses technology to aid him and connect him with others around him, but with food and water running low, there is only so much he can take and only so much his technology can do, and soon he has to venture outside. So first up, performances. Now, I am sorry, but I am about to butcher these names, but I have to try because my god, do they put in fantastic performances. First up, we have Yoo Ah-in, who plays Oh Jun-woo. He's our lead who we spend most of our time with, and you can't help but love this guy. He acts how I feel any normal person would act in a situation like this, and Yoo Ah-in strikes the perfect balance between being terrified, lonely, depressed and funny. From the emotion he brings to the character all the way down to his movements and the way he fights and interacts with the zombies and others, he brought so much personality to the character, which was pivotal in making this film what it was, as we do spend the majority of our time with him. Next we have Park Shin-hye, who plays Kim Yoo-bin. Now at first when her character is introduced, I was wondering how she would fit into the narrative and thought she would take away from the thrilling, contained story we were getting, but I was so wrong. She added even more layers and depth to an already gripping story. She opened us up to some awesome set pieces and was acted brilliantly. She was both badass and sincere. She was someone who could easily and instantly root for, and Park played awesome opposite Yoo, as they both bounced off one another perfectly, giving us two strong characters who you could really get behind and cheer on to the finish. As far as pacing goes, with movies like this, movies of isolation, being stuck in one place, it is super easy for them to get boring and fast, but Alive never does. It has awesome pacing and gets into the thick of things super fast, like literally 4 minutes and shit has hit the fan. But now and then it will dip at times to give us character moments that really do make you give a shit about these people and the outcome for them. In a genre that has been done to death, Alive is one of the few that breathes new life into it and lets its characters take centre stage, not the zombies. For decent chunks of the film, the zombies are outside and out of sight, but the threat always looms. Like in any good siege movie, you know not to go close to a window or a door, and when someone does, your pulse rises. I'd say it's similar to Train to Busan. I'd say the human story carries the overarching zombie story and carries the action set pieces, unlike something like World War Z where the action set pieces carry everything else. The zombies in Alive, when we do get close and personal, are awesome. They are super twitchy and fast, but not too fast. I wouldn't say they're athletes or anything like this. They're just going mental and they look really gruesome. The movement and faces they pull are really scary looking, and I have to give it up to all the zombie actors who are part of the film. They also seem to have a slight higher intelligence than other zombies, a bit more like Romero zombies, but not quite as smart as his, and I appreciate that. And the film did have a dark sort of humour sprinkled in throughout in just the right doses, and that's something South Korean films seem to balance perfectly and right. We get some really nice little laughs and also little moments where you're sad but you're also laughing with the characters because they've got to laugh. If they don't laugh they cry, so you laugh with them, and it was just really nice little moments like that sprinkled in throughout. The makeup effects were brilliant, they looked great. I loved their dark and rotten looking skin and the slight veins we could see through it, but I do have to say at some points there was a little bit of dodgy CGI, but it was nothing that took me out of the film, more just a nitpick. One thing that did bother me a little though was just some inconsistencies with the zombies. It's like they weren't sure of their own rules, and this is mostly down to their hearing. It wasn't clear when characters could be loud or they had to be quiet, and sometimes the zombies would hear something and action would kick off because of that, and then at other times they wouldn't notice. Maybe this was to keep uncertainty, but to me in places it felt a little coincidental and was just ignored to keep the story moving. But anyway, moving on to cinematography now. Alive looks really good. There are some really nice shots here and some lovely camera movements that seem fresh and like they were trying something new, but all the basics were done perfectly. Action looked so good with little to no shaky cam, and we got a good view of what was going on. A lot of the wide shots were used in the action scenes to give us the full picture, and I really do appreciate that. There was also some good use of slow-mo. I'm not the biggest fan of slow-mo, but the way it was used here was fine. It wasn't overused, and in the moments where it was always building to something and just ramping up the tension and the stakes that little bit more. One other aspect of Alive I have to praise is the music. It had an awesome synthwave soundtrack that transported me back to 80s horror and fit the whole vibe of the film with its technological aspects. It had an original score in there too, which was awesome at ramping up the tension and getting you on the edge of your seat. It used a siren-like noise to slowly build up to a crescendo, a lot like Evil Dead did back in 2013 with the air raid siren in the score. It's similar to that, and it worked brilliantly. Sound design was great all round and hit hard when it needed to. Set design was great. This apartment block, once they do a venture out into the world and come out of the apartments, it looks like hell on earth. There's blood, there's bodies, there's everything everywhere, and it looked really good. The lighting was great and it helped what colour there was to pop well and bring some life into a bleak dying world. The film just had style. By the end of the film you will get the whole hashtag thing too, and I thought that it was worked in well by the time the credits rolled. So with all this said and done, I'm going to give hashtag Alive a 4 out of 5 rating. One of the better films I've seen this year, and if you are up for some South Korean zombie action with great characters and cool tense set pieces, then you should give it a watch over on Netflix. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to give it a like, and if you are new to the channel then make sure to subscribe to join the club. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and good night.